we've played so far with text, and we've used text as paragraphs. We've seen how to make it italic or bold, basically applying some a visual style to our font, to our text in generally. We even used headers, quotations, or block quote. But now let's introduce a new element, and that would be the image element. Of course, you've already seen that most of the websites are parts text and part images, so I don't think there is a website out there at this point which doesn't have at least one image in it. So there we go, we have one. So I think we're officially a website. Or at least a beginning of a website. Actually just one page, but it's looking good. Okay, let's take a look and see how the image element is implemented within our page, and we'll talk about how it is rendered and why. Okay, if we go back to our source, we can see here our element. It's this one. You already noticed that we do not really have an ending tag. That's because the image element, it's the type of element that it's self-contained. It's basically one tag element. However, we already learned that one tag element is not going to be left like this. We always have a space just before the last right anchor bracket, and then just before it we place the slash. Okay, so the image tag has also a couple of attributes. Two of them would be mandatory, these two, the src and alt, and these three would be optionals. We have a width, height, and a title. Now the first one, src, basically is pointing to the image when actually the browser loads the page and renders the tag. It looks for the image location. Sorry. And the image location is pointed by this attribute src, which is defined like this. Then we have the value, which is the link directly to our image. In our case, this one, little_bug.jpg. Okay, the alternative text is basically a text that will be displayed if the image cannot load, the image link is broke, or the image does not exist any longer. So to actually demonstrate this, we'll just delete something from the src attribute, save it. Now, is something interesting. As I said, if I'm going to refresh the page now, normally I should see a placeholder for this image that has the exact same width and height, which are specified here, 300 by 225 pixels. However, when I refresh it, Firefox actually doesn't display the placeholder. However, it displays your alternative text. You see here, image close-up bug. Okay, for this reason, I also started the Internet Explorer browser. By the way, this is something new, which I would like to say. If you are going to be a web designer, you might just as well get used to actually checking your page in multiple browsers. So Internet Explorer would be one of them. As you can see here, I also have a Google Chrome installer and Opera. But for now, just Internet Explorer and Firefox is enough. So let's also refresh the page here. I'll press F5. As you can see, Internet Explorer keeps the hold placer. I'm sorry, the placeholder, my bad. And it also displays the alternative text, and of course this annoying text that keeps appears whenever I move my mouse over the image, and it says little red bug, but this is actually the title. So I'll repeat myself. The image close-up bug, it's the alternative text which appears and it's available to you only when the image cannot be loaded. In this case, because we mistyped the name. Now I've just corrected. Save it. Going to get back and refresh. Let's go back to Internet Explorer as well and refresh. Now the image is back and the alternative text is not there any longer. Okay, we cannot see it. However, the title will always appear because this is something that we especially place there, so we can see the another description for the image, basically the title. So this is what you see here. The title and the alternative text are not necessary to be one and the same. Usually I avoid to use the alternative text and the title one of the same. This is one of the things that I personally do. Of course, there is nothing keeping you to actually have the I'm sorry, the same text from the alternative to the title or vice versa. So this is simple. Then we have the width and height, which along the title are optional. Basically, if I'm going to delete of those three and save it, go back and refresh, this image is still displayed here as well. However, we do not see the title any longer. So just going to delete this again, save it, and I'm just going to go back to Internet Explorer so I can demonstrate something and refresh. Now of course, if I'm going to do this also in Firefox, I am going to end up with the alternative text but no placeholder. However, now we're looking in Internet Explorer, so we can see also the placeholder. The first thing you will notice once we've erased the sorry, just go back a little bit, the title, the width and height, okay, first of all, we do not see the title any longer displayed. That's okay. And then we can see that the placeholder now is constrained to the minimum width that the browser will render, and that is because it has some kind of space here because of the image loaded inside with this little small x. This is just to actually tell you that the image is broken. Basically, it's not there or deleted, or you probably mistyped the link that points to the image. And it also displays the alternative text. And of course, because we do not have width and height, as I said, it's restrained to a minimum rendering width and height. However, this is why the alternative text should be most of the times there. Normally it should be present in most of the pictures. We'll see cases where we do not actually need to implement this. Another reason for which the alternative text should be there is that there are users on internet that may use Braille machines, basically for people that cannot see, but they have Braille and they still can read what your image is about. So when you're doing sorry, as I said, I got a bit of a cold. When I'm doing a naming in the alternative text, I'm also thinking how exactly will I define the image? What exactly do I need to place in? So I will describe the image so the user that use the Braille machines, basically the user that cannot see for some reasons, they can understand what's my image about. Okay, not to mention the fact that it's a key element for a search engine like Google. For instance, if I want to search close-up bug, I'll just type in this in Google, and probably if your image or our images is named like this, it's very likely that my image will appear in the search engine results. Okay, this is pretty much clear. Let's undo the changes and go back. Let's refresh a little bit Internet Explorer. However, I'd like to show you one more thing regarding the image at this point, at least with the width and height. If I will completely erase this and save, go back to our browsers and refresh, in both of them I refreshed, you will see that the image is still rendered. Well, that's because the browsers nowadays, because a very long time ago, if you miss the width and height, the image will not be rendered at all. You just had a placeholder and that's it. So the images, the browser, when it renders the image, automatically also reserves the height and width of the image, so it can be rendered as necessary. Well, it wasn't that difficult, right? I'm sure you guys got it so far. So, however, there is something else we have to talk about the image, of course. Now, the obvious question would be, what if I want to align it left, right, or center? Of course, there is an attribute, but before we're going to talk about this attribute, I want you to also notice something else, and that would be that the image, when it is rendered normally, it's actually aligned to the left, and all the content that follows the image is aligned to the left, to the right bottom corner of the image, and from that point on the content will flow. Okay, now let's try the attribute, which I said would be align, of course equal sign double quotes, and let's try first left. Okay, and see what happens. Saving, going back and refresh. Now pay attention to this. The instance I release the refresh button, what will happen with the text? And there you go. The instance I refreshed the page, all the text had moved up to the right upper corner of the image. And you also noticed that unlike in Internet Explorer here, okay, which it was also the case in Firefox, there is no more space between the image, the right side of the image, and the left side of the text, as you can see in the Firefox. That's because this is the way that the align will behave. It will force the text to align with the right top corner, and not only that, will cancel the space between the content and the image. Let's see now what happens if we change from left to right. Okay, refresh. Okay, this looks nice. If you go back to also Internet Explorer and refresh, we see the same behavior. of course you've noticed once we switch from left to right side, now all the content will flow around the image, which is actually pretty much the same stuff. Also in this case, the image, the content flows around the image. This is something which I forgot to tell you guys, that once we use alignment left right, the content will flow around the image. Sorry, this is my bad. So let's do again right side and refresh. Okay, now before I'm going to refresh in no, actually we did. 1 second, I'll do something so I can see a little bit of a difference. So what I did, I changed back to left, saved it, went to Internet Explorer and refreshed it. So the image now is aligned on the left side. However, on the Firefox it's not yet refreshed, and it retained the last setting with the alignment on the right side. Now you may wonder, well, if I look into Explorer, I'll see that my text is perfectly aligned to the right side of the image and there is no space whatsoever between the image and the content. And in the other browser, in my case in Firefox, the content is aligned to the left sides of the browser. However, on the right side of the image, on the right side of the content and the left side of the image, there is a space and the content is not really actually aligned to it. Well, that's pretty much normal. That's because the general alignment of the content is aligned to left. So all the text here is going to get a different amount of space gaps, just because let's see, if we are taking this one, Metus, you see we have a longer word here and the browser tends to keep the words together rather than actually adding spaces between them, like adding a minus sign at the end of the row. So this is something that the browser does, and this is the way. But I refresh it anyway. You can see here as well the behavior. So the content actually flows around the image. It doesn't really matter if it's on the left or on the right side. The content will always flow. Oops, where I did? My bad. Mistype. On the right side. Okay. As I said, there is one more on the center. Now, this is something interesting, right? If it's aligned to center, then we have this kind of a behavior. It basically aligns only the first line, and it's going to align it to the center of the image, and everything else, when we get up to this point, is broken and placed under the image. So I pretty much do not really advise to use this unless it's necessary and you want to achieve some kind of effect. Other than that, it's left or right. Let's leave this one on the left for now and refresh. And before we're going to bring one more image into the scheme, so you can see what happens when we place images in different situations, I want to show you one more optional attribute, because align as well is optional attribute. And before I will add them, I'm going to say, well, okay, but what if I want to space the image? What if I want to have some space around the image, between the image and the content? Well, this is one of the optional attributes, and that would be the age space. Sorry, space. Let's say 10. Going to save it and refresh. And now we have a space between the image from the right side of the image to the content, and from the left side of the image to the edge of the browser. So basically the edge space is basic horizontal space. So it will add some space on the left side and on the right side of the image. Okay. Then if we want, we can also use it on the vertical, so that would be this space. Let's place another 10. As you can see now, we have also a space right above here. We cannot really see it very well here. However, if I'm going to do something like this, I'm going to see it now. Not really. One more I need, obviously. Okay. So if I'm going to, let's delete the space for a second. Go back and refresh. See, the image has gone up. Of course the text didn't, because I already had 2 breaking points, but in this way we can see better the effect. We save it. Yeah, with it. So now we have a vertical space of 10 up, 10 down, and we have a horizontal space on the right side and on the left side, again 10. So basically we have 20 in total, right? Okay, now as I said, I would like to bring in another image, so just copy paste this entire one. Let's first place it somewhere around here. Save it and refresh. As you can see, we have copied the same image. Okay. First of all, let's change the line from left to right. Save it and refresh. And now, as I said, I want to bring in a new image. Okay. So let's take a look on our folder. So as you said, these 2 files are on the root folder, but the image that we're going to bring in, it's in a new folder, and that would be in the images folder. Okay, so this will take me a little bit further from the images. Now, how exactly am I going to do this? Well, I'm going to go here. First, let's just copy paste the name. In case you wonder how I copy paste it, I'm just clicking on it and then press F2 to enter in edit mode, and then it's a simple thing of selection and copy. Go back to our code, and now let's say like this. We know that the image is in another folder. Okay, so I'll type in so I said images, and now we need to change the name. I'm going to copy paste the other one, so it's little b. I'm going to save it. Let's change the title as well, little red bug. Okay, I'll just say little b. Okay, save, go back and refresh, and there we go, we have another image. However, the image goes a little bit outside of the page, and this is a normal thing when you have a lot of content that will not fit between the top and the bottom visible area of the browser. It will always go under, and you can scroll down and up in order to see your image. Okay, so now let's see what else we can do with image here and how they will behave. Of course, let's take this image from here. Okay, I'm just going to cut it, Ctrl X. If I'll place my image under this one, let's see what happens. Okay, and I know that the first image has an align left, and my second image, which anyway is bigger, has an align right. Okay, and then we have the text. Let's save it, and go back, and refresh. Let's see what happens after refresh. Ta-da! Looks a little bit better, right? Well, now you'll say, okay, but this looks kind of strange to me, because in my code I have one image, the first one, then the second image, and then the content. When I'm going to look in my browser, however, the order would be I have the first image, then I have the content, and then I have the B. Of course, there is also an explanation for it, and the explanation has to do with the alignment attribute and the way that the browser will render the tags that we've stated inside the code in this order and with different set of attributes. Now the first one is pretty easy because we know that has an alignment to left and the content will flow around it. Okay. The second image has alignment to right, and we also know that once it's gone to right, the rest of the content will flow around it. In this case, if we have one image aligned to left and one to right, and the content would flow either to the left side or the right side, of course, all the free space between the two images will be filled with the content. So this is the reason for which you have in the code one image, the second, and then the content, and when it's rendered within the page you have the image, the content, and then the second image, just because the empty space left between these two images will be filled very well by the content. Now there is one last thing I would like to add about images. Like said previously, except the src and the alt attributes and title, the align, the a space and v space are deprecated attributes, and that means they will be replaced by CSS, and we'll just start in our next lesson the CSS, and of course we'll see why the CSS is going to make our life easier, and eventually you'll love it so much that you'll use it in every project, every single project that we'll have from now on. Okay, so let's get started.